Yeah, it's always at the last minute. Well, good evening, everyone. I think we have 15 participants right now. We're expecting a few more, but in respect to all of your time, we'll get started here, and hopefully as others join, we can bring them up to speed. But thank you very much for taking time out of your evening to join us for our virtual open house or workshop for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We certainly do appreciate your time. We know that people are busy and there's lots of other challenges to your time, but taking the time to be with us this evening is greatly appreciated. My name is Joe Webb. I'm with the company AECom. We are the consultants for this project. I'm joined on the line by Drew Crumpton, who will be our chart affairs and managing kind of the interface here. But I'd like to begin. If you, as we go through, I'll go through the whole presentation, but if you, after the presentation, you want to leave your feedback, there's multiple different ways here. You can raise your hand to ask a question and provide a comment during the meeting or at the end of the meeting. Leave a question or a comment in the Zoom chat. Chat questions will be read. Drew will read them and we'll try and address as many as we can. You can leave a comment on the meeting page. You can send an email to the link on the meeting page, or in the end, you could also provide a text comment by texting 512-580-8850. So tonight's entertainment, the City of Tampa Parks and Recreation Master Plan. This is our second virtual community meeting. It is intended to be a little more focused on Council District 5, East Tampa, but it's certainly, we welcome anyone to participate. The intent was simply to provide more focus in certain areas so that people could provide more focused input. But certainly anyone, or if you have friends that wish to participate in the meetings and they couldn't make this one this evening, they're welcome to the meetings that are scheduled for next Tuesday and next Thursday. Our agenda for this evening, brief introductions as we're doing. I would like to give a brief overview of the project. We'll talk about the public engagement, of which this is a part, but many other things going on. Our next steps, and then in the end, hopefully plenty of time for questions and hopefully some good answers. As I mentioned, we are focused in on the Council District 5, East Tampa. Again, this is not intended to preclude anyone who wishes to participate from a different area, but just really trying to focus in on, maybe more specifics in this area. All the virtual public meetings are open to the general public. Anyone can attend. The meeting is intended to focus on parks, facilities, recreation programs in and around Council District 5, neighborhoods in and around East Tampa. All comments are welcome. So the map on the right side here is kind of the delineation of the area that, at least in general, we're focusing on. As a way of introduction, we are with the company AECom, as I mentioned, working for the City of Tampa and directly for the Parks and Recreation Department. We are joined by a whole host of sub-consultants that are both local experts, but also national experts. So kind of a combination of intimate local knowledge and national expertise. Our project purpose, you can probably read this as something from a scope of work or a work order, but develop a comprehensive park system plan that will define the direction, development, and delivery of Tampa's parks and recreation services over the next 10 years. The key words here, one being comprehensive, meaning we're looking at parks, facilities, programs, operations, funding, every aspect that is inclusive within the realm of the Parks and Recreation Department. The other key point, I think, is to say for the next 10 years, parks exist in perpetuity. Sometimes timeframes are confusing. We really try to look out well into the future, maybe 20 years out, bring that back to a plan that's well-founded at 10 years, but that doesn't mean it's just a 10-year plan. We'll also be doing a 5-year strategic plan and a 1-year action plan to get us to that 10 years, if that makes sense. As a way of introduction, also, I don't know how frequently the people on this call participate in Parks and Recreation system master plans, but for us as parks people, when we talk about great park systems, we consider those the framework of really making livable cities, livable communities. And it's not just the beautiful green space, square neighborhood park, but really that sum total of that green public realm. And it includes greenways and trails, blueways, great streets, historic sites, conservation lands, of which Tampa has many, and certainly waterfronts in Tampa, and even public art. The image on the right is the city of Vancouver, which many people consider a great city. But when you look at the city as a whole, there's much more than just the neighborhood parks. There's the waterfront, there's Stanley Park, there's all the beautiful places that together help to create that framework for a really livable, sustainable, great place to live. This image on the screen is of the city of San Diego, which we just completed the plan for. And certainly the big square in the center, most people know Balboa Park, but it's also much more when you look at the city and where people recreate and what they do. The canyon lands are significant. The waterfront is significant. Certainly the beaches are. So we really try and take this comprehensive view of parks and recreation and public open space as all encompassing. Another point we'd like to make is that, great parks and recreation systems. There's a difference between really good park systems and great ones. And the city of Tampa is a very good park system. This isn't, a totally broken system. It runs great programs. They have quality facilities, really in many ways a very, very good park system, but really great park systems are transformational to the communities that they're in. They promote health and wellness, they promote conservation, social equity, economic development, smart growth, and certainly sustainability and resiliency. Certainly for a waterfront community like Tampa, it's very important, the linkage between parks and open space and sustainability and resiliency. The two images on the right, one is for the city of Norfolk, a national gold medal finalist, so considered the best park system in the country. We actually did this plan also, but the city of Tampa is a 4-time finalist for that. So we're talking about a parks department that is already very good, but wishing to be great and wishing to be great ever more so in the future. The image on the right is from Miami-Dade County, which we completed several years ago. And really, the plan evolved through it as a 50-year unifying vision for a more livable and sustainable Miami-Dade County. So way more than just parks, really about that whole host of great benefits that parks bring to livable communities. Another point I like to talk about is that the plan is very important. It's driven by community needs, wants, and priorities. We like to say that it is derivative, not prescriptive. In other words, it flows directly from what we hear from the community, what we ascertain are needs and priorities, not something we come up with and come in with a prescription of what makes a great system, but really listening to people and following that direction. I personally participated in over 80 park system plans, everyone unique. The two that we're showing here on the right, the city of Raleigh really was an embraced plan by the community, and Play DC, which is the District of Columbia, two entirely different plans, each very unique in what they are, but both driven by the communities and unique aspects of those places. But there's also an important part of a park system plan that is part of the process. Um, just going through the process of recognizing what parks are, putting a focus on it, energizing staff, integrating with other city initiatives, and really being unique. That process of going through these steps, I think sometimes can be as valuable as the end product. Um, and certainly we know as we work in the city of Tampa, as we began on this, and some of the work we've been doing up to this point is trying to come up to speed with all the other things that are going on across the city. Tampa is doing a lot of different things. They're really progressive in the transportation, infrastructure, public realm, economic development, conservation, sustainability, and resilience. So our parks plan is not an effort in and of itself. Part of what we strive to do is to make sure that our planning process, our plan supports all these other plans, integrates with them to advance a greater vision for the city of Tampa. The graphics you see here are just a kind of a quick collection of some of the other things going on across the city. This could probably be 10 times this many. There's just a lot of different initiatives going on at once. And sometimes you can't just wait for everything to be done. We have to run alongside. Our process, basically a 4-step process, but really all planning is quite simple. Where are we? Where do we want to be? And how do we get there? We envision a 4-step process that we say is learning, exploring, envisioning, and implementing. We're currently right now in the exploring phase. Much of our previous work was all that research and analysis that we've been doing. But right now in the exploring, it's the big part of the public outreach. And it really tries to identify, real needs and priorities across the community. So this is our big effort now. We will move on in the future towards visioning. So if these are the needs of the community, what do we need to do? And ultimately, and very importantly, defining a really clear implementation plan that helps everyone to know, what do we need to do today? What do we need to do a year from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now? So our public engagement, obviously with COVID, we're doing this virtually. We found this to be quite successful. A lot of people actually like this, but very much about engaging the community in the decision-making process. Our objectives: develop an open, transparent, and inclusive process. That's really our buzzwords for the more people participate, the more open it is, the more everyone can follow and understand what's going on, the better plan we will have. We are making specific efforts to engage underrepresented groups, garner balanced input. It's not just the most vociferous, but really trying to hear everyone and engage department and city staff, educate the public on the importance of the role of parks. And we do try and think that it's fun. I mean, this is Parks and Recreation. So in the end, I do think we try to make most of our participation fun or at least interesting. Our brand, which for all great plans, we've got to have a campaign of making people aware. And I really think for this plan, we came up with what I truly from the heart, from staff and from city administration, your vision for our tomorrow. I think it expresses that sense that this is the residents' plan. This is a plan that is really driven by the community's expressed needs and wants. We are trying to develop a public awareness style campaign around that message and organizing fun events. I know they had some things out at the 4th of July and other activities to kind of tie this message of your vision for our tomorrow into this plan. Building on the city's recent efforts in creating safe and accessible engagement avenues, we all know that there's still the concern of COVID. We hope that passes, but in the meantime, we're getting some robust engagement with people this way, and we'll continue to do so. So lots of different ways and strategies and techniques. We're doing press releases and handouts, social media, QR codes. If you can see every one of these where it's real easy with a smartphone or a mobile device to click on and go straight to the site, participate or see what's going on. We've been working with CRA on their newsletters and really in partnership to try and make sure our message is going out that way and out to the neighborhoods. We've made outreach through different medias to traditionally underrepresented groups, and really trying to also engage elderly, children, and recent immigrants in our process. Our website, which is kind of our open forum town hall, is really the place where we're keeping all of the information. An important part of it now is, linked to the virtual rooms and the survey, but it is the one-stop shop for the project information going forward. Lots of information will continue to be placed there so that we can keep everyone informed about where the process is going, what the latest things are, what findings we're finding along the way. There's currently a link to the online survey on there. I think that will be open through August. So generous time if if you participated, or if you wish to have other friends participate, please ask them to go to the website and give their information. We do geocode the information, meaning that we do know where generally people in general are coming from. There's some exceptions if it's via VPN or some other things, but we generally know we're not getting hundreds of responses from Alaska. You can see that most of them are coming from the immediate area of Tampa. And our ability to host online meetings like this, and all input gets consolidated and analyzed for key themes and trends. So that information will be provided as we move forward. Our virtual meetings is this. If you go on the site, you'll see that it's not just what do you want. There's actually some exercises. So I encourage everyone to go to the virtual rooms, read the information that's provided on the background and our process, and enter the portal so that you can give a full range of all of your household's needs. Safe, accessible solutions to meet our challenges, but we hope that this kind of platform where it is an immersive, almost feels like you're in the actual room. We actually copied the look of a specific community center in Tampa so that it got the look. I think this is Seminole Gardens is the community center. So in many ways, as you're going into it, it's intended to be as much of a reflection of being there in person as we can do. There is also across the community a statistical survey being conducted right now. Please, if you receive one, it's very important, please fill it out. It's a household-based survey, but this is often a very important part of our outreach is to have that statistical survey. Pre-tested questions, random stratified, mean you have just as likely of a chance that it comes to your house as your neighbor does. They're completely random across, but it will represent the profile of your neighborhood or your community. We also, an important part is we recognized in the beginning that Tampa isn't just one place. So we broke the city up into different areas across the city so that we could take the results and be able to see the differences between east and west, north and south. We understand that what might be a good response or a good answer in the north might be something different in the west. So we will amalgamate those into the broader districts and the city as a whole, but to drill down to real wants and needs expressed by people, we'll be able to do it at a much smaller scale so that we can look at, differences and unique differences between different parts of the city. The online survey, which is also on the website, it mirrors this statistically valid survey. It is not statistically valid in that it is not randomly stratified, but it still is a very important tool for us. So if anyone that you speak with that is interested in this process, or everyone on this line, please do go on and give your ideas. That is what drives our whole process. Any member of the public can participate. It doesn't preclude anyone from outside, but hopefully we get the vast majority of responses from City of Tampa. That's kind of the sum total of my presentation. At this point, I'll turn to Drew here and we'll see if there's any questions or comments, and hopefully we can entertain any questions you may have about the process or intent, or any comments about what you feel is important. Thanks for listening. If you wish to participate, just raise your hand and we'll unmute you and you can ask a question or give your comment.
We have unmuted Roger. So Roger, if you'd like to go ahead.
Oh, Roger. Roger? Well, Roger, would you like to give your input? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. It's nice looking at the 10-year plan and everything for what you're looking at doing, but my main issue is the maintenance of these properties that Park and Recreations have. They're just not maintaining them currently within the east side of Tampa.
Well, and that's a valid comment. We are looking comprehensively at the entire Parks and Recreation services, not just new stuff, but existing maintenance and operations practices. So, in your opinion, they're not maintained as they should? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they're not, they're not maintaining, because we have the one location here, which is Clarence Fort Trail. For years since it's been put up and stuff, they have yet to maintain it properly. You got liability issues that are out there with the uneven surfaces, asphalt buckling. The boardwalk has some bad wood areas in it and stuff. And for over the years and stuff, they have not done nothing about it. You got one area that's mold and mildew that's going to sooner or later, mess the wood up. And they have not been doing nothing to keep that from happening.
Well, that's a very valid point, Roger. And I think we're recording this, and we'll make note of your statement. Is there another specific place as example that you feel we need to know about?
No, yeah, as I say, that's about it, because that's the only area that is near me. And, I have been reporting with no action being done about it.
Okay.
And that's been for several years.
Very valid point. We went out and evaluated all the parks too. So we saw many of the things you're talking about.
What was that again?
We went out to all of the parks, visited every single park too. So,
Okay, now this is a trail that has a little playground park that's near it. It's called Clarence Fort on, it's, uh, it's on Osborne, and it surrounds a storm water retention pond.
mhm.
So if you've been out to that one and walked it, you would have seen the condition that it's in.
It's a valid point. So we'll record it. Certainly, this is the proper forum. Hopefully, moving forward, we can do things about that.
All right. We're going to move on to William Truett.
Can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear
Yes.
me.
Yes, we can.
Great. Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to be on this tonight. I did have two questions, if I could, please. Regarding the parks, there's more to it than just maintenance of the regular parks. They're what I describe as being green spaces as well, or areas that are maintained. I'll give you an example. In my neighborhood, I live in Seminole Heights here in Hampton Terrace. We have a lake, Lake Roberta, which is maintained by the Parks Department, with making sure that the lake banks are cut with grass. We also too have some trees, we have shrubs, we have things in the area. I'm assuming that some of the things that you are looking at with what parks would do would still include like the situation that I'm describing.
Well, yeah, I think that was, part of our point here with our kind of skip between slides here. We really do look at parks as all of that area, that public green space, more than just, verbatim parks. So we try to really consider everything and everything's potential. Sometimes it's not just a stream bank, that could be a walking area, that could be other things. So we do try and take a comprehensive look at what constitutes parks and recreation in the city.
So that's I appreciate that, and this is where I'm going with really the next part of the question here is that I know that the Parks Department, the City of Tampa, and others, they're going to need neighborhoods, and they're going to need teams of volunteers that can kind of help maintain and make sure these green spaces are taken care of, because the burden can't just fall in one place. Are there going to be things that are looked at that looks at partnerships that the Parks Department can do with either neighborhood associations or with groups of or individuals, that if there are projects, for example, like with the lake, we know that there's some trees that need to be cut down. We also too know that there's some improvements that can be made with beautification, with landscaping in certain areas. Is there some consideration that's going to be giving that there's neighborhoods that can also too provide funding or be part of the process here, but also to be able to work with parks for the city to have some type of grants or other funding to help make sure that we keep this beautification efforts in place?
Well, I'm going to turn your question into a statement. I do think that the current Parks Department welcomes that idea, but I think the statement would be that perhaps we could do more. In some places, partnerships, neighborhood associations are even more so. Central Park is all maintained by the Central Park Conservancy. The city actually doesn't spend any money on maintaining it. So I do think that's an area that we should note and make a part of our program here to explore, volunteer efforts and efforts by neighborhood groups. It's got to be well organized. safety and security. We can't have people out with chainsaws. But, how to best integrate to make maximum benefit of people's willingness to help. I mean, and there's a double benefit from where I've seen in Portland and other places. It's not just what the sweat equity, it's the ownership that people take when, maybe once a month there's a cleanup day and there's it brings people together. It makes everyone feel like space is theirs, and it actually has lots of benefits to it. It just has to be organized and in a fashion that's effective.
Thank you very much.
Good
Right,
points.
now we're going to go to Myra Pierce.
Hi, thank you so much for hosting this. Myra, I'm from Ybor Heights. We're a tiny little neighborhood association that one of our boundaries start at Nebraska and Martin Luther King. One of my biggest concerns, and I think one of the biggest concerns of our neighborhood, and I'm just saying this for the record, is Burrell Park. It's a very tiny little park. And right now, I mean, it's not only usable by our residents, but it's downright dangerous to our neighborhood. It is a haven for illegal activity. The businesses that surround this park are struggling to contain the individuals that run off from this park and the some of the nonprofits along Nebraska Avenue. So I just wanted to bring to your attention that Burrell Park, I mean, it's not only a green space that we cannot use, it's just dangerous to be existing in our neighborhood. I'm hoping that the city of Tampa can recognize its historical significance, because Ybor Heights and the neighborhood in between Ybor Heights and Ybor was the original Ybor city before I-4 was built. So I'm hoping that we can get some attention to that park, not for the sake of the residents, but for the sake of the small business owners that own property all along Nebraska Avenue that are trying to run businesses. Mr. B's is a wonderful Southern restaurant, and they had to be put on Restaurant Impossible recently because they needed help. And these are things that I think that the city can intervene in with these master plans as far as improving the environment of the Nebraska Avenue corridor for the benefit of not only the residents, but small businesses. I mean, one of the developers in the area, she is trying to sell a house, and some people are graffitiing and defecating on her porch because of the people that are foot traffic through here, and Burrell Park is right around the corner from that home. So this is definitely a matter of safety for our neighborhood, and I'm hoping that you can make some attention towards that neighborhood, that park, even though it's very small. We have a development, we have multiple stakeholders. We have Crab Devil Peninsularium. It's an art collective that's moving in within blocks. Burrell Electric is working with our environmental officer, Officer Curtis, to hopefully kind of curb some of the activity, because Burrell, they adopted the park 20 years ago this year. So 100 people have responded to a survey that I personally did between the two neighborhoods, our neighborhood and the Ybor, and there's a lot of people that want to use this and then we have this huge development that Mr. Rappaport is building that has 26 units. I don't know if you know much about Seminole Heights, but we love our dogs, and those dogs need a place to go to the bathroom, and it's going to get messy if it's the 26 units that are going up off Nebraska Avenue. So I'm hoping that we can get a dog park. I'm hoping that the people that live in our neighborhood and the future residents of this development are able to use Burrell. So I'm hoping to just find out, how are we going to receive communication from the city as far as further input in the future? And also, how do you plan to prevent the displacement of the people that are suffering on the streets of Nebraska Avenue? But I'll keep it short. Thank you. Those are my 2 questions.
Well, yeah, all of your points very well taken. And, you know, whereas you're specifically talking about one park, I think that that idea of making sure they are safe and secure and usable is, you know, something, you know, needs to be addressed within this system master plan. It's not a unique concern, but certainly we will record your specific concerns about that part. But it's also something that, you know, is not unique across Tampa, and nor is it unique across most urbanized areas in America. There are strategies, I think there are things to do, but it has to be very careful intervention. As for the part of your question about keeping informed, I would refer you back to the website. You know, this is just this part of the process, the needs and priorities. There will be a visioning, there will be an implementation, there will come a day when the council needs to approve this plan. So I often encourage people, stay involved. If these things are of concern to you, or if you wish they be not forgotten, it won't be forgotten. This comment is recorded. Everything you're saying is being put into the record. We will have notes of this meeting that will become part of our plan, but keeping it going forward with more specific ideas of exact interventions that can be helpful is also important. So that may come in the visioning part, and how do we pay for it might come in the implementation part. But the idea of that it's a problem and that there's a security or a safety issue is, you know, we're aware now. Now we need to know what to do about it.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully that answers that, but I appreciate your concern and your, I mean, just obvious passion for your area.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to go to Carlos Colon.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, so thank you very much. I'm Carlos Colon, and I'm here with my wife, Kim. We live in Terrace Park. And Kim is also the secretary for the North Seminole Little League that plays just across from Rolette Park. Just wanted to make a few points. One thing, and I'm not sure if you also included that in the presentation. One of the things that we've been struggling with with our facilities is we also wanted to get internet in the building, in that facility. So to facilitate a few things, I mean, not only to allow us to do things like take credit cards and things like that on the concession stand for the baseball park, but also for other activities for the kids, like, for example, tutoring and things like that in the building that we have out there in North Seminole. So I'm not sure if that is also included as part of the infrastructure that you talked about for the existing buildings and any new facilities. So just wanted to make sure that you also consider things like that in the master plan. One other thing that we wanted to bring up is signage for the parks, for a few things. Some of the signs that we've seen, like, for example, again, using the example of Rolette Park, the sign is actually broken. And it doesn't necessarily say, you know, it's not clear what kind of facilities you have in that park itself. That should be something that should be considered as part of also the master plan, what the signage is. It should be clear, should be visible, and should be, you know, repaired if it needs to. The transportation is another point. I know that you mentioned it in there, but one of the things that we see in the across Rolette Park is it's a major thoroughfare, you know, between that area. And the North Seminole Little League is just across from the Rolette Park. what we would like to see is also consider things like a crosswalk specifically in there. Like, for example, when families come over to have practices for baseball, some of the people may want to walk across the street to go to Rolette Park. So things like a crosswalk in there. I know we have speed tables in Yukon. Those could be extended over there to that section. But that should be considered, not just necessarily transportation to and fro the parks, but also, you know, foot traffic in the facilities themselves, especially if they have to cross the street to get to the other facility. One other thing to consider in the plan, one of the things that we like to do as a family is just try to go to parks that we haven't gone before, right? One of the things that we usually do is we have all calendars from the Hillsborough County parks where they kind of highlight for each month which parks, you know, the kind of like a spotlight on a specific part, what things they do. And that should be an incentive for other people to actually visit those parks and see what we have available in the city of Tampa, right? I haven't seen something like this, so that'll be something that will be beneficial.
They're conservation areas.
What about the conservation areas?
Well, a lot of them are in Hillsborough County, but again, Rolette Park is, you know, if you've toured all the parks, it's kind of like the jewel of the city, and we just feel it's really underutilized and dangerous right now, and that's of course underserved youth. Again, my name is Kim Joanitas, wife of Carlos. Give thanks. We also participated in the December 2019 initial MPO presentation, so congratulations on being selected. I don't know, everything got put on pause but we certainly hope that's considered. I know the NFL and NHL, it's done a great job with the green landscaping. There's a dog park there now and everything, pickleball, all that. But, you know, if we have at-risk youth there in the Sulphur Springs community, and to be able to, you know, have that either lit up, whether it's a crosswalk, a speed bumps, however it may be. And of course, the sign, you can't even read that it's North Seminole. So anyway, give thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight.
And just real quick, because you were asking for specific examples in parks, like the first gentleman said, and other examples of parks that need maintenance is the Tacoma Park. Kind of the same issue, you know, the boardwalk needs to be put back, and actually the boardwalk and the trail need to be repaired. Another one that we were talking about is Copeland Park. Yeah, so same thing. The boardwalk it's not functional, and some of the baseball fields in there also have problems with drainage. So just wanted to at least mention those if you wanted other examples.
And especially since those are involving, like I said, not just the youth, but our at-risk youth. We're trying to get them back into the schools and everything after, you know, post-pandemic. And again, congratulations on being selected as the consultant.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of great ideas there. I've made note of some of these. We have the recording, and Drew, I trust you got some of them too, but you certainly hit on a lot of points that are very common in parks. You know, I sometimes listen with listening for things, but the wayfinding and signage, you know, directional, not just clearly what is the park, but what's there, how do I get there? Access, I think, is one of the more critical issues for all park systems, particularly in Florida, but nationally also. You know, sometimes one of the most important things I can do is provide a safe crosswalk or a light to make sure that it's, you know, the park can be safely accessed at the right times. The improvements, repairs, I think that's, you know, I will say that's going to be a lot of places. So all your ideas, very good, very focused. We'll certainly take these into account as we move forward. But again, I also encourage you to participate as this process moves forward. Keep track on the website of upcoming meetings and encourage your friends and neighbors to speak also. A lot of these things have to do with funding. Again, thanks for your comments. Next,
Yep, we're gonna go with next up is Nikki Rawlings.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think I echo probably a lot of the concerns that have already been mentioned, but I just have two things. The one of them really does come down to the security of the existing parks that we have. I can't tell you, I'm in District 4. However, we visit a lot of parks throughout the Tampa area, especially down along Riverwalk. And I mean, I've had, parents literally light up weed right in front of me as the kids are playing on the on the playground there at Julian B. Lane. And I've been out at Picnic Island and at Cypress Point, and the picnic tables are lined with bongs. I've made phone calls to the number listed for park security, and it goes to a voicemail. And there's really no presence and no enforcement. But it certainly doesn't make you feel safe. And so, I'm excited to think that there's going to be a lot of new park and rec opportunities out there, but I worry about the fact that, we can't even create the safe environment that we need for our children and families and the ones that we have. The second one that I want to bring up is that I am the mom to a special needs child. I have a daughter with Down syndrome. And I think I have a different perspective when I go into every park environment on her safety, because, she can't verbalize in the same way. Some of the selection of the apparatuses and playground equipment isn't necessarily always sensitive to kids with special needs. So, I really hope that's one factor that, the committee or the study group or whoever's making decisions brings in that special needs community for some input.
Well, those are some very good points too. There is a common theme about security, and I'm trying not to lead things, but that's come up many times. Now, security with parks is often a convoluted, or at least a difficult question, because the number one way to make parks safe is to fill them with lots of people. Lots of people playing and having fun and, activating them. Even our security experts, even our police will tell us, activating the park with people is what tends to take away non-appropriate behavior. So part of the solution is getting more people like you to visit. If we get to that, and I'll use the term tipping point, where you're not going because of security, that's when it becomes very unsafe. So it is a term, tipping point. If we can get more people in there, if you can just refresh and get some activities happening, that's often the first big step. I do think your comment about special needs needs to be a specific note, making sure that it's not just all heavy upper body strength type of play features, but also, a whole plethora of physical activity within the playground. But we'll certainly and should make note of that.
All right, next we have Jeff McNabb.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time here and for putting this meeting on. Much appreciate it. Heard a lot of good comments. So I hope I don't have the wrong venue. But as a moonshot, just from what I read on the website, I wanted to ask and just put a note into what you guys are looking at for a roller hockey rink with the Parks Department. I know the NHL and the Lightning have actually been able to pay for a few in the suburbs around town. But I want to mention just why I am passionate about it and see it as an opportunity. We have a rink in Palm Harbor that is connected with the Parks Department that is covered and lit, and they actually have a It's called the Sunderban Complex. They have a way that you can request time at it online. And then also when I was in Naples a few years back, there was a hockey tournament there, and at an area called Veterans Park, Collier County actually has a covered, full-size and lit roller hockey rink where they have a league. And it's something that we used to have in Tampa. And just, I've been here 30 years. In the past 4 years, we've had mainly all three of the old roller hockey rinks shut down and turned into other things, U-Stored or whatnot. And so where we used to have 300 people playing or more in our leagues, doesn't really exist anymore. And roller really provides an opportunity to a large number of people that ice is not an opportunity for. And this, I guess, just seeing it at these other related parks in Florida, and us having the Lightning and the NHL actually funding some of these. I wanted to get that on your list. And then the other thing is, my question was, if that was something that did happen, is it something that the Parks Department would, I guess, be able to manage, or would it need would we need to find an external group, I guess, that kind of manages the ongoing costs and anything else related?
Well, I don't think I can answer that, but I think the point can be made that I've seen them successful either way. It really depends on the group that's managing it. You know, sometimes those can be very successful partnerships. Certainly with ice, you know, they're often partnerships, but the roller ones, I'm familiar with the one in Collier, there's one in Martin, there's multiple of them around the state. You know, how they get managed can be done by the department or can be done by a group. You know, the need for them, honestly, it's just making a point of whether that's a need. I think you're saying that it is. And I think going from there, you know, at first finding out that there's a need. And if so, then how do we properly arrange it is the next question. So points are well taken.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to go to Cynthia.
Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for your time. My name is Cynthia Plemons. I'm representing the Angus Argots Memorial Pool Committee. And I just have a follow-up question. In September of last year, the committee, with funds that we raised ourselves through community fundraising events, conducted a SurveyMonkey survey of throughout Seminole Heights and surrounding areas. And we received nearly 500 responses representing 850 individuals. The summary of this survey was sent to Parks and Recreations to Nikki Coates in January of 2021 in preparation for these community input meetings. We also submitted a petition with over 1,100 signatures from throughout our community. I'd asked at that time that we be able to do a walkthrough of the data that so we could confirm and answer any questions for the pool survey that is going to be, or the pool assessment that has been funded by the city of Tampa as part of this master planning process. And to date, we have not received any responses back. I'd like to ask that we have a response back that this information indeed did get to the proper people doing the assessment, and that we could spend some time with them. Thank you.
Okay, we will certainly make note of that, and hopefully can follow up with you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Tim Keyports.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for Parks and Rec putting this on. and to AECon for your terrific work. The virtual community center is fantastic. Hopefully more residents will go in there and make their voices heard. I live in Old Seminole Heights, as do a number of the other folks on this call. They mentioned the urban core, and it's a perfect tie into what Cynthia just mentioned about the pool. I'll bring that up in a minute. So we've got 15 parks in our area, and they're everything from large parks to little pocket parks, and they are terrific. We showcased them last year on our association website, and hopefully the public's been out there using them. But I do want to bring up a few points. So as Cynthia brought up, the Wayne C. Paffey Memorial Pool is now permanently closed. In fact, it's completely gone, and it's now a green space. So in meeting with the mayor and others, we do understand that there's a huge lift cost-wise, but I do want to point out that, you know, that's a permanent loss for the urban core. There's another pool that was also permanently closed in West Tampa, which I'm sure you'll hear about in a future meeting. Again, permanently gone, unless Parks and Rec is somehow able to bring that back. I used to have a community center in our area, the Wayne C. Paffey Center, which is now a athletic center, but it is strictly for gymnastics, which again, terrific for that community and for those folks. In fact, there's a waiting list for those who want to get their kids into the gymnastics program. So again, kudos to the city for providing that opportunity. But that was with the loss of a community center. So there used to be things like senior citizen sewing classes, et cetera. And I'm wondering if we couldn't have something back. And my proposal this evening is one of the largest parks in Tampa is the Henry and Ola Park. It does have a community center, but it is a 750-foot portable, which is in rough shape. And it's actually a replacement rented portable that replaced the previous portable that was condemned due to mold. So my recommendation is, with such a large park, could we not consider putting a new facility there to provide the community with a community center, resources for all ages. So it's not just the kids after school, which of course that's what they serve right now, but having a center that could serve the elderly population through a variety of classes, as well as meeting spaces that could be used by any of the groups in the area. So that is my recommendation, is to consider putting in a 3,000 to 6,000 square foot community center. I realize that's a heavy lift. It's a lot of money, but with the loss of both the Wayne C. Paffey Community Center and then the loss of the pool, I believe the urban core, as many of the other residents have brought up tonight, and the huge influx of residents coming into our area, we are deserving of having another facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim, and certainly we'll notate those things and make sure they're considered. Christopher, are you next?
Yep, we'll go to Christopher.
Yeah, guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. So I like that we brought up park safety and also how to mitigate that, which, like you said, was getting like increasing attendance. And how do you plan to do that if some of the, I feel like that's like a chicken and the egg example. I'd like to build off of what one of the other participants had mentioned about a specific park in East Tampa. It was Burrell Park. I live a block away from that park, and it is pretty intimidating, day or night, depending. And don't get me wrong, it's definitely got attendance, but it's not attendance that I would specifically join in on. So how do you plan to approach that?
There isn't a one size fits all. I mean, there's whole books written on this of the tipping point and the experience of New York with Bryant Park, but it is part of the chicken and the egg. there has to be that initial effort where you clean up all the graffiti, you know, clear the park, you create some activities in it that might come at, you know, specific activities regularly scheduled over a period of time to make sure that you kind of get that critical mass. But you know, I can light places, and that is important. Proper lighting is important. Proper policing is important. We often talk about CPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design, which is consciously designing for security, visibility, those activities. But in the end, you have to create a place. Now, with all of the population in the vicinity, it may just be, as with many times with parks, there just isn't anything else to do there. Do we need a dog park there? Do we need something that is attracting lots of people there that makes other elements choose to go elsewhere?
I see. And that's actually a great point to bring up. So most of the basic things you mentioned, that park pretty has covered. It's very visible. It's on a major thoroughfare. It's pretty well lit at night, I must say. It's got one pavilion and like a little play set in the back, like with a slide and some swings. So otherwise it's pretty open and visible. It's just, it doesn't seem like there's much there to attract anybody. So is there a way I can put in for or recommend one of those assessments like you had mentioned?
Put in for what?
The assessment that you had just mentioned about like developing the park so that it is the features kind of go hand in hand with its security.
Well, I don't know if you have to put in for it. Here, we're in a park system master plan. So recognizing that there's, you know, our first step is recognizing there's a problem, right? And again, this isn't unique to just this one park. I know it's a good example, but kind of instilling these principles into a lot of other places as part of the system plan. We've talked with the city about doing specific design plans at the end to, you know, actually create, okay, exactly what should you do? The city originally asked us about doing concept plans for a whole bunch of places. We're kind of waiting to see how things evolve here and what might be the best approach to that. That may still be something we look at, but first we have to recognize there's a problem, understand that it's not just about lights and police. If, you know, those are important, but if we don't activate and change them, some of the biggest changes in security is when, you know, there's 20, 30 people from the neighborhood in the park, you know, the other elements go away. There's, you know, that's the secret. And is it really visible? And is it, sometimes I've seen them so ridiculously lit that it's uncomfortable for people in the neighborhood to go there. It's got to be a very informed and direct intervention.
I see. And I like the buzzword that you use, activated. Yeah, it does seem to be a very passive space.
Yeah, I mean, New York intentionally put in a restaurant. Now that probably isn't appropriate here, but you know, the whole idea of how do you get people, others in the Northwest, I mean, it was putting in a community garden. It was a dog park. What is it that people in the neighborhood would do there if given the opportunity? Take away the element of fear and security and really put in something that makes everybody in the neighborhood want to go there and deal with it in that fashion. A lot of what I see are just places that maybe were, here's my other buzzword, relevant 15 years ago, that are maybe not relevant to the lifestyles of people today, which much of what we talk about in parks is not that parks and recreation is changing. our population, our American lifestyles are changing. But we need to bring the parks up to what is relevant to people today so that they are activated, that people really do look at them as an extension of their home, of their space. You get lots of people in them, the problem go away.
Okay, that was great input. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
But your point is well taken.
Looks like we're got another comment from Tim.
Yeah, one of the folks asked about a roller rink, and I'm not sure if you're aware or not, so I'm just sharing this. There is the Tom Oliver Memorial Hockey Rink. It's an outdoor hockey rink open to the public, as I understand it, at 7701 North Florida Avenue. And as I understand it, the Lightning recently upgraded that facility. So there was already some type of a tie-in, and I do not know who runs the facility. It's right up against Florida Avenue, again, 7701 North Florida Ave. So you might look into that. But then a comment for the moderators. I think there would be benefit if the Parks and Rec would work with the Tampa Housing Authority, because they do actually own a number of community centers, which I think are fairly underutilized. And I've tried to see if there's a way for the regular public to utilize those community centers, and I can't seem to get anywhere. So, here's an example of a city owned, if you want to say it that way, facility that could benefit Parks and Rec, if there could be some type of a partnership between Parks and Rec and the Tampa Housing Authority. Senior centers and community centers that don't seem to be open to the general public, but rather just to the residents at those specific areas. And it seems like it could be a win-win for everyone. So just a recommendation for you to look into that if you can.
Okay, that's a good idea too. We're all about partnerships. I think as much as we can make maximum use of the public investment, that's how you leverage your funds. That's how you do all this stuff without breaking the bank. Boy, I don't see any more hands up. Anyone else? Anything else? It's been a great discussion so far. I think everyone really very aware and focused on the area and the parks. Very grateful for your input. It seems like everyone's really into their place and into their parks. Anything? Anyone? Questions, comments, criticisms, new ideas? Hearing none others, I'll close with kind of a repeating myself, but please stay engaged in the process. Please talk to your neighbors and friends and ask them to be engaged. Some of the, sometimes people come out and give us input, and then as we move forward in other stages, it gets lost. The day will come when I have to present all this to the council. If I'm representing your ideas and everything you've given me, it helps to know that you're behind me. I really do love parks. I really do believe it is the framework for livable communities, and Tampa has so much potential. We live in paradise and we're on the water. It could be more. So I thank everyone for taking time this evening to be a part of our process. Please stay in touch, and we look forward to you being a part of our process in the future.
Hey, Joe, look, I just saw in the chat that Fran looks like she wants to say something real quick, so I'm going to unmute her.
Oh, okay, great.
All right.
Hey, this is Fran Costantino from Historic East Ybor City. And I think our solutions would be very simple, and I did email them to you. But to give you a little history, I'm a resident, business and property owner here in historic East Ybor City. And the underprivileged children had absolutely nowhere to go. And I think most of the employees with the city of Tampa are now gone. But when Mayor Iorio took office, I asked her to come on a tour with me to East Ybor, where we saw things that I think you wouldn't see in a third world country. The children couldn't cross 7th Avenue or 22nd Street to get to the Boys and Girls Club. So they actually had a slashed tetherball ball tied with a rope to a stop sign, and they played in the streets. And then they got a plastic milk carton where they nailed to a utility pole, got newspaper, wrapped it in duct tape, and that's what they were using for a basketball. So even when she had to cut her capital improvements, she promised me and the residents here that she would not cut, giving us a small little pocket park. So I did email y'all and told you about the pocket park is on 26th Street between 11th and 12th Avenue. And we have a half a basketball court, a little pavilion, but we are so absolutely neglected here. Right now, there's a pickup basketball game going on the half court. And we were promised upgrades, landscaping, lighting. We were able to get a water fountain for the children when it's hot. But the size of the park is probably 3 to 4 times the size of my own yard. So it's very small, but we can't seem to keep a basketball net that's not ripped or fresh mulch, lighting. We've asked for a bunch of things that have never come to fruition. So I've just asked that staff try and keep this little park on their radar and give us some of the attention that we deserve over here in East Ybor.
Okay, that will certainly be noted too, and we'll share that with staff.
Thank you.
And we have your comment in the comment portal, so we appreciate that too.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Last thoughts? Okay, hearing none. Thank you again for your time this evening. We'll sign off, but do stay with our process if you can.
All right. Yep. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And again, if you'd like to provide comments after the meeting, there's plenty of opportunities. You can still go to the registration page and enter comments in the comment portal there, as well as visit our website. And we encourage you to do that as well, to visit the virtual open house and take the online survey. So again, thanks everyone for participating. You all provided great input, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.